So now, as we've been discussing about solid drawing, thinking about the volumes when you're drawing, I think one of the most basic understandings that follows it is that of a turnaround, right? So turnaround is like a very simple exercise to understand how things turn in space. And there are also a couple of things which you need to keep in mind about the spacing of things when things turn in space, right? So that's something which we are going to take a look at today. So for now, I'm just taking like a very simple character. It has nothing very innovative going on about its design, as you can see. But I'm just making it very simple so that everybody can follow, so that it doesn't become too daunting or intimidating for others. Yeah. So now to do the turnaround, like if any of you guys have seen a model sheet of a character, you always have like a front view, then you have two profile views, and then you have 1/3/4 view, right? So these you can consider like keyframes and breakdowns, and then you just turn it around by adding more in between to basically, right? So I think here, since this character doesn't exist, so we don't really have a model sheet for this guy. So I think we'll have to design his profile view ourselves. So we'll just give it a thought, right? So now here, I think we'll be a little more analytical, and I think we have some people with architecture background as well here. So I think this will appeal to them quite a bit. So yeah, so I'm trying to draw a profile view for this guy, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm just putting down his nose. Then we'll just constantly flip between these. Then his mouth should be here somewhere. So I think in almost all the drawing softwares, if you hold down the shift key, you can draw like complete straight lines, right? So that way you can really be very precise with where you put your lines. So let's say his chin somewhat like this. Yeah. So now I'm just playing here, as you can see. So maybe his chin is protruding out like this in the profile view. And then as he turns, his eye would also start shrinking, right? So I'm just thinking about that as well. And then I'm also constantly thinking about how his forehead would look, where his eyebrows would be. I think maybe I need to be a little more precise with his eyebrows as well here. I'll just make sure that fall in the same line. I'll just try and be as precise as I can, guys. Yeah. As we've seen with the previous exercises as well, the more the more precise you can be with your keys, I think the rest of it becomes much easier. Right? Now, let's say his hair. They start here somewhere, like this. And then his ears would be here. You see what I'm doing, right? It's everybody's following this, right? What I'm doing here.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to design the profile view of the character because we don't really have the model sheet at the moment. So I'm just making it up as I go. So that, and then maybe draw his just trying to flip and check what it could look like. Yeah. maybe just to simplify it even further, I'll just straighten this out a little. And maybe this also, I can just curve it out. Yep. Then for the eyebrows, that's the peak. And they should look something like this. Now I'm seeing that I think his eyes are a bit too deep set. I think we need to push them underneath the eyebrows so that it looks nicer. Yeah. So just by referencing our front view, we just created a profile view. Yeah. And as you can see, even though his front view is like very narrow, his profile view can be a little broader, right? You don't really have to fit everything in this frame. Does that make sense? Because if you look at yourself as well, you could be narrower from the front, but you could really be like bigger on the side. Yeah. You could also have a ponytail and whatnot. So when you design the characters, you can really challenge yourself and make it as interesting as you can.
Rohit, I have a vague question.
Yeah.
From the front profile, I mean, the guy looks like a young guy, for example.
Mhm.
But while drawing the side profile, the way we did his jaw and stuff, does that make him appear like an oldie or something like that?
But here we're not really talking about the design as much as we are going to talk about how things move in space. So I'm not really thinking in that terms.
Mm-hmm.
But while drawing this guy, I had an idea that I want his chin to actually protrude, and his hair to be like thinning a little so that he has this widow's peak here, hairline receding a bit, which you can see more clearly when he turns to the side, right?
Yeah.
So we're not really talking about the design at this point. We are just looking at how things move, how the volume would turn. That's all.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's about it. Yeah, I think we just need to keep this down a bit. And now let's play and see how it works. Yeah. So now we have a sense of that volume as it turns. And we are being very mindful about the spacing of it. So it translates well when it turns around. Of course, there are some wobbly bits, like in the hairline and all of that. But if we are being very precise with where we are placing those lines, and we are constantly cross-checking between our adjacent drawings where we put everything, just by putting those construction lines in there and checking where to put them, we can end up with something very precise and very solid in that sense.